There's a moment in every woman's life where she questions her intuition. She looks back at the silence she ignored, the excuses she accepted, the bare minimum she celebrated, and wonders, why didn't I walk away sooner? But growth is not born in regret. It's born in awareness, in power, and in finally choosing to see what you were taught to overlook. Let's talk about red flags not as warnings to fear, but as signals to honor your worth. Because you see, love is not supposed to confuse you. It's not supposed to make you feel small. If he makes you question your value, that's not love, that's emotional manipulation dressed in charm. If he disappears and reappears when it's convenient, that's not mystery. That's emotional immaturity. A man who respects you doesn't play hide. And seek with your soul. He shows up, not just with promises, but with presence. If he constantly makes jokes at your expense, making you the punchline in front of others and calling it humor, don't laugh it off. That's disguised disrespect. Love protects your dignity, not makes you question it. When he criticizes your dreams, mocks your goals, or makes you feel guilty for having ambition, understand, that's a red flag. Real men don't fear your light. They don't shrink when you grow. They cheer, they rise with you, or they step aside, but they never try to dim you. If you find yourself always apologizing, even when you've done nothing wrong, stop. That's a trauma pattern. That's a red flag waving in your own heart. Healthy love doesn't require you to silence your truth just to keep the peace. And if every conversation feels like a test, if you're constantly walking on eggshells, if you fear expressing your feelings because you're too emotional or too much, that's not your issue, it's his. Emotional safety is not a luxury, it's a necessity. A man who can't hold space for your voice is not worthy of your heart. Watch how he treats the people who can do nothing for him, the waiters, the staff, the elderly. His character isn't shown when he's trying to impress you. It's revealed in the moments he thinks no one's watching. And if his words never match his actions, don't waste your energy decoding mixed signals. Mixed signals are clear signals. When someone truly values you, there is no confusion. There is consistency. There is clarity. When you're constantly tired in a relationship, not because of work or life, but emotionally exhausted from the chaos, the guessing, the drama, that's not passion. That's emotional warfare. Real love brings peace, not pain dressed in apology after apology. If he compares you to other women, that's not motivation. That's manipulation. You are not in competition. You are in your own lane. And anyone who tries to use jealousy to control your behavior doesn't deserve a seat in your life. And listen, if he crosses your boundaries once, and you let it slide, understand that he was watching your reaction. Disrespect often starts in subtle ways, and silence gives permission. You don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to explain your standards over and over. You simply have to walk. A woman who walks away from chaos is not difficult, she is disciplined. Don't let loneliness make you tolerate treatment that your strength would never allow. You were not created to be almost loved. You are not here to chase affection or beg for attention. You are here to be seen, valued, respected fully and deeply. Red flags are not just in his behavior. Sometimes they're in your own habits, like constantly trying to fix him, making excuses for him, believing that love requires suffering. No, love requires growth, effort, safety, communication, accountability. You are not his mother. You are not his rehab. You are not his unfinished project. And remember this, a man who is intimidated by your confidence is not your soulmate. He's a distraction. Your glow is not up for negotiation. Your self-worth is not a compromise. You are allowed to demand emotional availability. You are allowed to expect honesty. You are allowed to want effort, consistency, maturity. These are not too much. These are the bare minimum. Never fall in love with someone's potential. Fall in love with their patterns. not their words, not their apologies, not their potential. Patterns don't lie. And finally, trust your gut, that whisper you keep ignoring, that discomfort you feel after every interaction, that moment your heart sinks when he says one thing and does another. That's your spirit warning you. Don't drown out your intuition for the sake of temporary connection. You are powerful, you are precious, you are not here to shrink just so someone else can feel tall. A red flag is not a stop sign. It's a mirror, a moment to pause and ask, am I choosing myself or betraying myself? And when you start choosing yourself every time, that's when the real love begins. Red flags in dating often become the silent whisper in our hearts that we are too quick to dismiss or ignore. We've all been there, feeling a strange unease when something doesn't quite align, but brushing it off because, at the moment, we're swept up in the excitement of a new connection. It's easy to talk ourselves out of discomfort, telling ourselves that maybe we're overthinking things, that maybe we're just being too cautious or too sensitive. But the truth is that those subtle feelings of unease are not there to make us fearful. They're there to call us into a deeper sense of self-respect, to invite us to stand firmly in the truth of who we are and what we truly deserve. Red flags are not meant to make us retreat in fear. They are meant to empower us to trust ourselves more fully, to recognize our own worth, and to walk away from anything that doesn't align with our highest value. They are not warnings meant to intimidate us, but rather to awaken us to our own power. Each time we ignore a red flag, we betray our own intuition. Each time we brush it off, we are telling ourselves that we are not worthy of the love, respect, and care that we deserve. When we see a red flag, it's not an invitation to fear the future of the relationship, but an invitation to honor our own voice. It's the moment when we are called to stand up for ourselves, not by confronting the other person immediately, but by taking a step back and asking ourselves if we are truly choosing ourselves. A red flag is a call to stop and reflect, not to feel afraid, but to empower ourselves to make the decision that honors our peace, our joy, and our emotional well-being. In a world that constantly pressures women to put others first, to prioritize their relationships, and to sacrifice themselves for the sake of keeping things calm, a red flag serves as a reminder that we are worthy of so much more than just tolerating bad behavior or second-guessing our own intuition. Too many of us are taught that love is supposed to be hard, that relationships require compromise to the point of self-sacrifice, that the more we give, the more we will receive. But love doesn't demand sacrifice at the cost of your soul. Real love doesn't ask you to compromise your boundaries, your standards, or your happiness. It aligns with your essence, it honors your spirit, and it nurtures your soul. A red flag is a sign that something doesn't align with this truth, and it's there to remind you that your peace, your boundaries, and your self-respect should never be negotiable. When we choose to ignore red flags, we make the decision to put our own needs and feelings last, to believe that we don't deserve better, and that maybe our concerns aren't important enough to address. But here's the truth. The moment we allow ourselves to question whether we're worthy of a healthy, balanced, respectful relationship, we've already lost sight of our self-respect. The very fact that we entertain doubts about our worthiness opens the door for more red flags to come in, for more unhealthy patterns to repeat themselves. It's not just the actions of others that impact us. It's the way we allow those actions to influence our perception of ourselves. Every time we let a red flag slide, we signal to ourselves that our intuition, our feelings, and our boundaries are not as important as keeping the peace or maintaining the connection. But peace isn't found in silence. It's found in the courage to speak up, to acknowledge our worth, and to choose the relationship that aligns with our highest good. Peace isn't about enduring discomfort or sacrificing our happiness for the sake of someone else's. True peace comes from knowing that we are enough, just as we are. When we begin to recognize red flags for what they truly are, we stop seeing them as obstacles or reasons for fear. Instead, we begin to see them as opportunities for growth, both for ourselves and for the relationship. It's in those moments of discomfort that we are given the chance to raise our standards and demand better. If someone truly values you, they will understand and respect your boundaries. They will not manipulate or gaslight you into thinking that your feelings are unreasonable or invalid. What happens when we stop fearing the red flags and start respecting them? We begin to experience relationships that are built on trust, respect, and mutual care. We stop tolerating toxic behaviors because we've recognized that our time, energy, and emotional well-being are worth more than any relationship that doesn't honor us. We stop making excuses for people who don't meet us where we are and start attracting those who can. The power of self-respect is that it sets the bar higher, not just for others, but for ourselves. It teaches us that we are not desperate for love, but that we are deserving of love that is kind, nurturing, and aligned with our values. Self-respect is about knowing that we are whole, complete, and worthy of being treated with the utmost care and consideration. When we respect ourselves, we no longer feel the need to tolerate behavior that doesn't honor us. We become stronger in our ability to identify and address red flags, and we stop questioning whether our feelings are justified. We begin to recognize that the red flags we encounter are not simply annoyances or inconveniences, but rather vital signs pointing us toward a more empowered way of living. It's easy to make excuses for others, to justify their behavior, to convince ourselves that we can change them or that we should give them another chance. But we must ask ourselves, what am I teaching myself by accepting this treatment? Am I teaching myself that I'm worthy of respect and love? Or am I teaching myself that it's okay to settle for less? The way we respond to red flags shapes how we view ourselves and how others will treat us. When we choose to walk away from relationships that don't serve us, we are showing the world and ourselves that we will never again settle for anything less than the love and respect we know we deserve. The more we honor our self-respect, the less we fear red flags. We stop seeing them as signs of failure or rejection, but as signs of protection. They are our inner compass guiding us toward healthier, more fulfilling connections. When we stop fearing them, we give ourselves permission to walk away from situations that are not meant for us. We no longer waste time trying to force something to work when we know deep down it's not right. We recognize that every red flag is an opportunity to make a choice that reflects our true value, our true worth. When we embrace red flags as markers of self-respect, we stop compromising who we are for the sake of a relationship. We understand that our peace, our joy, and our emotional well-being are more important than any temporary connection, and in that clarity, we find the courage to choose ourselves every time. We stop settling for anything less than the love we are meant to receive, love that uplifts, love that nurtures, love that cherishes, and love that respects the very essence of who we are. Because in the end, the relationship that truly honors us will be the one that reflects the respect we've already given ourselves. When we enter into relationships, whether they are romantic, platonic, or professional, we often look for validation through words. Words are powerful after all. They can create hope, build connections, and offer comfort. But too often, we place too much emphasis on what is said rather than what is consistently done. Words are fleeting. They can be spoken in a moment of passion, in the heat of an argument, or simply to make someone feel better. But actions Actions tell a story that words alone cannot capture. One of the most crucial aspects of any relationship is consistency. It's the foundation upon which trust, love, and mutual respect are built. Yet, we live in a world that is quick to prioritize what is said, not what is shown. How many times have we found ourselves swept up by beautiful promises, only to be let down by a lack of follow-through? How many times have we heard the words, "I love you," but the actions that followed didn't match the sentiment? Or perhaps we've experienced the opposite, someone who doesn't say much but proves through consistent actions that they care. Consistency is not just a habit, it's a reflection of character. It's the way we measure integrity, reliability, and commitment. Consistent behavior isn't about making grand gestures or empty promises. It's about showing up, being dependable, and demonstrating through every action that you are committed to your words. When you begin to understand the importance of consistency, you stop falling for empty declarations. You learn to differentiate between the people who speak about change, love, or commitment, and the ones who actively demonstrate those qualities day in and day out. Anyone can say something, anyone can make promises in the heat of a moment. But not everyone is willing to put in the work that is required to follow through on those promises. People who speak without following through often do so because they understand that words are temporary. They can be forgotten, twisted, or forgiven. But actions leave a mark. Actions are difficult to ignore, and they cannot easily be erased. Consistency in action requires a level of accountability and responsibility that is rare. When someone tells you they care, they love you, or they are committed to you, but their actions speak otherwise, you are faced with a choice. Do you continue to believe in their words, hoping that one day their actions will catch up? Or do you begin to trust the evidence in front of you, which shows that their words were empty? It's difficult, I know. It's painful to acknowledge that someone may not be who they claim to be, or that their intentions may not be as pure as we initially believed. But the truth is that we can't afford to ignore what is consistent. The longer we do, the more we train ourselves to accept what is inconsistent as normal, and that, my dear, is not okay. You should never settle for inconsistency, not in the words of another, and not in your own behavior either. When we allow ourselves to focus on words alone, we create an environment in which it's easy for people to manipulate and take advantage of us. Words can be used to say anything, but what truly matters is whether the person consistently demonstrates what they claim. When someone says, "I'm sorry," but continues to repeat the same actions that caused the hurt, that's not an apology, it's a placeholder for guilt. When someone says, "I love you," but shows little regard for your needs, your feelings, or your boundaries, that's not love. It's convenience. Words can be soothing, they can create a sense of hope, and they can mask the reality of someone's true character. But when we take a step back and pay attention to how someone consistently behaves, we get a much clearer picture. And that clarity is essential in any relationship. The more we look for consistency, the more we begin to honor ourselves. We learn that we do not have to settle for promises that are never kept, or for words that are spoken in the moment but forgotten as soon as the situation changes. We start to see the patterns that reveal someone's true intentions, and we begin to respect our own needs and boundaries more than we respect empty promises. We stop allowing ourselves to be caught up in the excitement of words and begin to seek out actions that align with those words. This is not a cynical way of approaching relationships, it's a realistic and healthy one. You cannot build a solid foundation on promises alone. You need the evidence of consistent actions to back up what is being said. But this principle doesn't apply only to others. We also need to hold ourselves accountable for the consistency of our own actions. How many times have we promised ourselves we would change something, whether it's a behavior, a habit, or a mindset, and then allowed our words to remain unfulfilled? Consistency begins with us. If we cannot hold ourselves to the same standards we expect of others, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment and dissatisfaction. The more we develop the habit of following through on our own promises to ourselves, the more we begin to expect the same from others. We stop tolerating the incongruent behavior, not because we are seeking perfection, but because we have come to understand the importance of integrity and reliability. Consistency is a reflection of care. It shows that someone is willing to put in the effort day after day, even when things aren't as exciting as they were in the beginning. It's easy to be passionate at the start of a relationship, to put on a mask of commitment or affection, but real love, real respect, and real care are demonstrated through the quiet, everyday actions. How someone treats you on the bad days is just as important as how they treat you on the good ones. How someone behaves when there is no spotlight, when the excitement has faded, and when life is no longer filled with the buzz of newness. That is where the true measure of their character lies. And that is where consistency truly shines. Consistency is about more than just being reliable. It's about being dependable in a way that shows genuine care and respect for the other person's needs. When someone consistently demonstrates respect for your time, your energy, and your feelings, they show that they value you. It's not about grand gestures or big promises. It's about the small things, the text messages that check in, the effort to make plans and follow through, the ability to listen when you speak, the willingness to compromise when necessary, and the consideration of your feelings before making decisions that affect both of you. These are the actions that show consistency in love, care, and respect. We often seek reassurance in words because they are easy to grasp, but actions, true, consistent actions, are what truly hold weight. When we place our trust in the consistency of actions, we create a strong foundation for relationships, one built on truth, reliability, and mutual understanding. Words may get the conversation started, but it's the consistency that keeps the connection alive and thriving. It's time we stop seeking validation in what is said and start seeking it in what is done. Words alone are not enough. We need to pay attention to the actions that accompany them, to the way someone shows up not just when it's convenient, but when it counts. Trust is built through consistent behavior, not empty promises. Let us begin to value consistency not as a form of perfection, but as a demonstration of care, commitment, and integrity. Emotional safety is something we often don't fully appreciate until we've experienced its absence. It's one of those invisible elements in relationships that, when present, makes everything flow smoothly, and when absent can cause anxiety, self-doubt, and a feeling of being unanchored. Many of us mistakenly believe that emotional safety is something that should be earned over time, that it's a luxury reserved only for those who have weathered the storms of a relationship for years. But the truth is that emotional safety is essential from the very beginning of any relationship. Whether it's romantic, platonic, or familial, emotional safety is not about being free from conflict or disagreement. It's about feeling secure enough to express yourself, your needs, your boundaries, and even your vulnerabilities without fear of judgment, ridicule, or emotional harm. When you feel emotionally safe, you can show up as your true self without worrying that your feelings will be dismissed or invalidated. It's the ability to communicate openly and honestly without the fear that your words will be twisted, weaponized, or used against you. It's the understanding that no matter what you say or how you feel in the moment, your worth will never be compromised. Emotional safety is the bedrock of trust. Without it, even the most beautiful connection can deteriorate into fear, anxiety, and confusion. The foundation of emotional safety starts with respect. Respect for your thoughts, your feelings, your body, and your boundaries. The moment someone disregards your emotional needs, belittles your experiences, or refuses to acknowledge your feelings, they're breaking down that safety. Respect means acknowledging that you are an autonomous individual with your own thoughts, emotions, and experiences. It means understanding that your emotional responses are valid, even if they don't always make sense to someone else. A person who respects you will give you the space to feel, without demanding that you change your feelings to fit their comfort or expectations. When emotional safety is lacking, communication breaks down. Instead of feeling like you can express yourself freely, you may start to walk on eggshells, censoring your thoughts and carefully crafting your words in hopes of not upsetting the other person. Over time, this builds walls that distance you from each other, even when you are physically close. The danger of this is that emotional walls only grow taller the longer they're left unchecked. Eventually, you begin to feel more like strangers than intimate partners or friends. You feel isolated in your own emotions, unable to share your true self because you fear the consequences. One of the most dangerous aspects of lacking emotional safety is that it makes room for manipulation. Without emotional safety, it becomes easier for someone to control or guilt you into staying silent about your needs, your desires, or your discomforts. This can take many forms: gaslighting, where someone makes you doubt your own reality; emotional blackmail, where your feelings are used as leverage to manipulate your behavior; or even subtle dismissals, where your concerns are constantly minimized, making you feel like your emotions aren't valid. In these situations, it becomes easy to lose sight of your worth, as you begin to believe that your feelings are not important, or that your emotional needs are a burden. True emotional safety is characterized by vulnerability, both giving and receiving it. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength. It's the courage to show up as your authentic self, with all your imperfections, scars, and fears, knowing that the other person will handle your heart with care. When you feel emotionally safe, you don't have to hide behind walls or masks. You can let your guard down because you know that you will be accepted, loved, and supported no matter what you share. Vulnerability in a safe space fosters deeper connections, because it's in those moments of raw honesty that we experience true intimacy. Without emotional safety, vulnerability becomes a risky endeavor. It becomes a gamble, and you may find yourself hurt, rejected, or dismissed when you expose your true self. In relationships where emotional safety is absent, we often see patterns of control, defensiveness, and avoidance. A person who feels unsafe emotionally may avoid addressing issues in the relationship, choosing instead to sweep things under the rug or pretend everything is fine, because they fear the fallout of expressing their true feelings. Others may resort to defensive tactics, turning the tables on the person who tries to share their emotional needs, deflecting blame or shifting the focus onto the other person's perceived shortcomings. These behaviors stem from fear of being hurt, fear of rejection, or fear of vulnerability. But the truth is that these behaviors only perpetuate the cycle of emotional danger, making it even more difficult to create the safety needed for true connection and growth. On the other hand, when emotional safety is present, difficult conversations can be had with an open heart, knowing that both parties are committed to listening and understanding, even if they don't agree. The goal is not to be right, but to be understood. There's no need to win the conversation because the true objective is emotional connection and resolution. Healthy relationships embrace the ebb and flow of communication, where both people feel heard, validated, and respected. This doesn't mean there won't be disagreements, but it does mean that even in the midst of tension, both individuals can feel confident that their emotional safety is being protected. Another critical component of emotional safety is the recognition of boundaries, both your own and others. Boundaries are not barriers to intimacy. They are the very foundation of a healthy, trusting relationship. They define where you end and where the other person begins. Boundaries help protect your emotional well-being by setting clear guidelines for what is acceptable and what is not. When someone respects your boundaries, they honor your emotional space, and in turn, you feel safe to express your needs and desires. Conversely, when boundaries are crossed, whether intentionally or unintentionally, emotional safety is compromised. Violating someone's boundaries is an act of disrespect, and it creates an environment where trust and connection can no longer thrive. It's essential to understand that emotional safety isn't something that's only needed during difficult times or moments of conflict. It's required every day, in every conversation, and in every interaction. Emotional safety is a constant practice of showing up for each other, being present, and offering empathy, understanding, and kindness. It's the way we listen, the way we respond, and the way we create space for one another to exist as we are. It's an ongoing commitment to building trust and nurturing the emotional well-being of both parties. The absence of emotional safety can have long-lasting effects on one's mental health. When we constantly find ourselves in relationships that are emotionally unsafe, we can begin to internalize the belief that we are unworthy of love, respect, or understanding. We may become anxious, self-critical, or withdrawn, and over time, these emotional wounds can compound, leading to feelings of isolation, depression, or low self-esteem. The more we deny ourselves the right to be emotionally safe, the more we risk losing sight of our true worth and the love that we are capable of giving and receiving. In contrast, when we cultivate emotional safety in our relationships, we create a space for growth, healing, and authentic connection. We teach ourselves and others that we are worthy of being seen, heard, and supported. We no longer have to fear rejection or judgment because we understand that our emotions are valid and deserving of respect. And in this space of emotional security, we can begin to love more fully, to be more open, and to build relationships that are founded on trust, compassion, and mutual understanding. Emotional safety is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the foundation of every healthy, meaningful relationship, and it is the right of every individual to experience it. If someone cannot offer you emotional safety, they are not capable of offering you the love and respect that you deserve. When emotional safety is prioritized, relationships can thrive, and the individuals within them can flourish, knowing that they are supported, valued, and unconditionally loved. Trusting your intuition and setting boundaries are two of the most important skills you can cultivate when it comes to maintaining healthy relationships and protecting your emotional well-being. These two elements go hand in hand, and together they create a powerful shield against manipulation, disrespect, and harm. It's easy to underestimate the power of your intuition, dismissing it as just a feeling or a fleeting thought. Similarly, setting boundaries is often seen as something selfish or unnecessary, especially when we're taught to prioritize the needs of others over our own. But the truth is that trusting your intuition and setting boundaries are not only acts of self-preservation, they are acts of self-respect. They are the way we communicate to the world that we are worthy of being treated with dignity, care, and consideration. Intuition is a powerful force that many of us have learned to ignore or downplay, especially in a world that values logic, reason, and tangible proof. We've been conditioned to believe that our instincts are not enough, that we must always have a rational explanation for everything, that we must overanalyze every situation to make the right decision. But intuition is not something to be doubted or second-guessed. It is a direct connection to your inner wisdom, a quiet voice that speaks to you from a place of deep understanding. This voice is often louder when something is wrong, when something feels off, or when a person is not showing up for you in the way that they should. It is the feeling you get when something doesn't sit right with you, when you feel uneasy in someone's presence, or when you instinctively know that something isn't aligned with your values. Intuition is your body's way of communicating with you, alerting you to potential dangers or discomforts before your mind can even process them. The difficulty lies not in the intuition itself, but in our willingness to trust it. In many cases, we've been taught to disregard our gut feelings, to push them aside in favor of pleasing others or going along with the flow. We've been conditioned to dismiss the quiet whisper that tells us something is wrong in favor of the louder voices of reason or the expectations of those around us. But when we ignore our intuition, we open ourselves up to harm. We let our boundaries be crossed, our needs be disregarded, and our hearts be taken for granted. We allow others to take up space in our lives that they don't deserve, and in doing so, we sacrifice our peace, our joy, and our sense of safety. Trusting your intuition requires a willingness to listen to yourself, to honor the feelings that arise within you, and to make choices that align with your inner truth. It requires you to stop second-guessing yourself, to stop looking for external validation, and to trust that you know what is best for you. You don't need to justify your feelings or explain them to anyone else. Your intuition is your guide, and it is always leading you toward what is healthiest and most fulfilling for you. When you begin to trust your intuition, you begin to feel more grounded in who you are. You stop questioning your worth, and you start making decisions that are rooted in your own values and desires. But intuition alone is not enough. It's one thing to feel that something is off, but it's another thing entirely to take action based on that feeling. This is where setting boundaries comes in. Boundaries are the invisible lines that we draw around ourselves to protect our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. They are the standards we set for how we want to be treated, and they communicate to the world what is acceptable and what is not. Boundaries are not meant to isolate or separate us from others. They are meant to create healthy space for connection, respect, and mutual understanding. Without boundaries, we open ourselves up to being manipulated, controlled, or taken advantage of. We allow others to encroach on our time, our energy, and our peace, and in doing so, we sacrifice our own happiness. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love. It is a way of saying, I am worthy of being treated with respect and care, and I will not allow anyone to cross the lines I have set for myself. Boundaries are not about being rigid or inflexible. They are about knowing your worth and communicating it to others. They are not a way to push people away. They are a way to ensure that your relationships are healthy, balanced, and mutually supportive. When you set boundaries, you make it clear that you value yourself and that you are willing to protect your own well-being. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent your life prioritizing the needs of others over your own. It can feel selfish or even mean to say no, to assert your limits, or to stand up for yourself. But the truth is that setting boundaries is not selfish, it is essential, it is necessary for your emotional survival, for your mental health, and for the growth of your relationships. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. They are a way of communicating to the world that you are not available to be mistreated, disrespected, or taken for granted. And when you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. You show them that you will not tolerate behavior that diminishes your value, that you will not allow them to take more from you than you are willing to give. One of the most important aspects of setting boundaries is learning to say no. Saying no is not an act of rejection or hostility. It is an act of preservation. It is a way of protecting your time, your energy, and your peace. When you say no, you are honoring your own needs, and you are making space for what truly matters. It's easy to feel guilty when we say no, especially if we are worried about letting someone down or disappointing them. But the reality is that by saying no to something that doesn't align with your values, you are saying yes to yourself. You are saying yes to your own peace, your own clarity, and your own well-being, and that is always worth it. Setting boundaries also requires us to communicate our needs clearly and directly. It's not enough to hope that people will just figure it out, or to expect others to know what we need without us having to say anything. Healthy relationships are built on honest communication. If something doesn't feel right, or if someone is crossing a boundary, it's your responsibility to speak up. This doesn't mean being aggressive or confrontational. It means being clear, calm, and assertive in expressing what you need. It means saying, "This is not acceptable to me," or "I need some space," or "I'm not comfortable with this." Your boundaries may be different from someone else's, and that's okay. What matters is that you honor your own limits and communicate them with clarity and kindness. As you begin to trust your intuition and set boundaries, you will notice a shift in your relationships. Some people may not understand or appreciate your boundaries, and that's okay. Not everyone will respect your needs, and that is a reflection of their lack of consideration, not yours. You may lose people along the way, but that's not a loss, it's a gain. The people who truly care for you will respect your intuition and your boundaries. They will support you in protecting your emotional well-being, and they will value you for the strength and clarity that you bring to your relationships. In time, trusting your intuition and setting boundaries will become second nature. You will no longer question whether your feelings are valid, and you will no longer feel guilty for prioritizing your own needs. You will learn that it is not only okay to trust yourself, it is essential. You will understand that you are your own best advocate and that your intuition and your boundaries are there to guide you toward the relationships and experiences that honor your true self. You will stop allowing anyone or anything to dictate your worth, and you will begin to live a life that is aligned with your values, your desires, and your inner truth. Trusting your intuition and setting boundaries is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And when you embrace these two powerful tools, you empower yourself to live a life that is authentic, fulfilling, and deeply rooted in self-respect.